All right, listeners, we have a real treat today. I am thrilled to welcome Jennifer Brown to the podcast. Jennifer, welcome. I've
Thank
already
you.
given I've already given folks run through your super impressive bio in the introduction. So here, I just thought we could dive right in. There's so many things I thought about that we could talk about. And so if it's all right with you, we could just jump right in. But first, just welcome.
Oh, thank you. I'm so honored, especially with the other guests you've had on. I know them all and I
Yay.
admire their work and have drawn on their wisdom and energy for a really long time. So you are
Yeah.
running an amazing show here. I'm
Oh,
honored.
thank you so much. I mean, I don't know if you feel this. It's one of the huge benefits to doing something like this, doing a podcast like this, and I'm sure you felt this too. It's just reconnecting with people that you
I know.
haven't talked to in a while and
It's
getting
true.
to actually connect and learn about what they're all doing and kind of just, have fun with it and see people that you really love.
Selfishly, yes, I agree.
Selfishly, I know, but that's and it's such a joy to bring those people who how brilliant they are, and how dynamic and charismatic they are, and to share that with your audience is just kind of a real joy, right?
Oh, it is. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege. And, there's so many of my guests after having my own show for 7 years. They're all still in my life. Like I still,
Yeah,
you just bond. You have this intimacy after you have these kinds of conversations that
yeah,
takes it to a different level of your
yeah.
relationship. So yeah, that's what it's such a bond
Well,
these times to have this kind
oh
of.
God. For sure. I mean, you're already sparking so many questions for me. Um,
Uh,
I kind of want to start though, just talking about your new book, right? The Shape of Change. I have read it recently. It's a beautiful book. It's so reflective and thoughtful and poetic. And as you say in it, so very much not an instruction manual. And I wonder if you could just tell the listeners about that. Like, how did this book come about? Why was it important for you to write? Why was it important for you to write now?
mm, all good questions. Thank you. Yeah, so it was an unusual process because a new kind of publishing model approached me and said, "We
Mhm,
want to do a book from your podcast."
mhm.
And I had 370 episodes by that point after 7 years of running, and we decided to mercifully just focus on the last 100 episodes. But it makes sense too because I wanted the book to be really timely, like really grounded
Yeah.
in this moment and what this moment feels like for me. And I had been unpacking that both in
Mhm.
solo episodes, but also with dear colleagues and fellow advocates who were traveling this road. And so they were able to help me do that, like distill, the lessons, the wisdom, the ideas. And it was just an incredible process, almost like
Mhm.
makes you realize, and I've known this, but I hadn't known how to kind of extract the and distill the important parts of the conversations into something that someone could read, in a sitting, in like a short
Yeah,
plane ride or whatever. So I
yeah.
was very excited to have it. And so that was how it came about. And then
Mhm.
the why now is the urgency of what we're all feeling and going through. It's, I was all about inclusive leadership for many, many, many years, right? Like
Right, right.
25, 30 years. And I think when everything has been put on pause and we were sort of blocked as a field of practitioners from going there anymore, from
Mhm.
having the partnerships that we had, from feeling the wind in our sails and at our backs,
Yeah.
to something quite opposite, it stopped me in my tracks. And I think it was very important that that has happened for a lot of reasons. And so the book goes through what it felt like to be stopped in my tracks,
Mhm.
and what came up when the music stops. It kind of,
Yeah.
I think of this musical chairs game, which is a very cruel and very 1980s game, right? It's a, well, to
Uh,
remind you, that you are an outsider and you lose and there are winners, but there were no chairs anymore. I mean, it literally, like the music stopped. There was not even a chair anymore to sit in for any of us. And it
mhm.
almost felt like our home was being taken away and our purpose and our identities. And the book really explores what that felt like for me.
Yeah.
Who am I beyond my work? Who am
Mhm.
I? I contain my work and I will always possess it. It will always
Mhm.
be in me. But this moment has allowed me to really branch into a bigger conversation. And I think why now is there's a bigger conversation that's needed because
Yeah.
so many systems are failing and changing, and we are being kind of swept up in a very, very confusing time. So I love thinking about change.
Mhm.
But I struggle with it as a human.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I use my own self as an instrument for teaching and reflection and honesty and saying, boy, this has been really after 25 years of knowing exactly who I was, roughly, and being so kind of clear and focused. It's been difficult and heartbreaking and also amazing and exhilarating. So
Yeah.
I'm not meaning to put a positive spin and be toxically positive with this, but I do think the pause and was so is and continues to be so instructive for us
Mm,
to
mm,
reevaluate who am I going to be in this next chapter and what am I
mhm.
going to teach or where am I going to convene people? What do I want to be talking about? What's
Yeah,
important right now? What's urgent
yeah.
right now? Boy, there's no shortage of work to be done, but I think our role in it
No.
can change and it should change. It should change,
Mm, mhm, mm.
you know?
Yeah, oh gosh, I really wanna dive into a lot of that, um, because you and I are feeling and experiencing professionally and just maybe growth-wise, so many of the similar things at least. Um, what, uh what ideas there's so many beautiful, like, images and metaphors and concepts in the book. Which ones are really resonating with people? What have you
Mm.
heard? What feedback have you heard? What's really resonating the most?
The most interesting thing has been in my book events I've been doing, the response I'm getting is, "Thank you for naming what
Mm,
this moment
mhm,
feels like."
mm,
If you're
mhm,
just trying to give it words,
mhm.
sometimes words, are inadequate, when so much is happening and it's so deep and complex and nuanced. And I'm like, is this real? And what is true? And wow, I
Yeah,
mean, the destabilization is so intense right now that
yeah.
people are grateful for that. And I'm noticing this is my editorializing. I think leaders and companies aren't talking about this.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
talk about an elephant in the room. The level of change that people are being asked to pivot through gracefully and graciously and, with
Yeah.
productivity and, with a smile, and a great
Mhm.
attitude. I mean, that's a lot to ask folks, both
Yeah.
what's happening outside of jobs in the professional sphere and then what's happening
Mhm.
inside. So just
Yeah,
having somebody who's willing to come in and be honest and be reflective of my own experience of this moment and what I don't understand yet.
yeah,
And I try to use my explorations as a way to role model what I would love leaders to be saying right now.
yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
really like. I'm like kind of saying it into being, hopefully, and
Uh-huh.
right.
You're modeling, you're modeling.
I'm modeling, I'm prompting. Like,
Yeah,
here's the language where you say you don't know, and this is what you do know, this is what you believe in,
yeah,
this is who you believe in, this is why it's important, here's what
yeah.
matters, but the admission of the ambiguity, the admission of not knowing, and the admission of the gosh, I'm uncertain. Here's what it feels like for me.
Yeah.
Um, that's what people I think just want to be heard about, and
Mhm.
they don't want or need answers all the time, and it doesn't have to even make sense, but the acknowledgement of it and
Yeah.
then the container to process it, try to metabolize it, and to come out the other side in a way with wisdom and it be feeling encouraged. you
Mm,
know
mhm, mhm.
People feel to me like they're kind of spinning off, in a disconnected way. And I'm not sure the
Yeah,
leaders know how to shape this moment and make it mean
yeah.
something and give that purpose. And anyway, and I want to say one other thing, the hallway people really love, which is the,
Mhm.
like that when one, door closes, a window opens, but it's hell in the hallway, which is what
Yes.
my podcast producer always reminded me about, as I was bemoaning the fact that I was in the liminal space, the fact that I felt like
Mhm,
I was in this passage, and
mhm.
I would go back to the door behind me and bang on it and say, "Let me back in.
Right.
I want to do what I used to do. I want to know myself that way. I want to have that confidence. I want to have
Yeah,
that certainty of where I fit and what I do and who I am." And then I can't. It's locked.
yeah.
And then I'm not able to see what's ahead. And I want that certainty again. But
Yeah.
the embracing of the hallway, I think, is really resonating with people, but it's super uncomfortable. And we were talking,
Yeah.
started the episode talking about the liminal and not rushing the liminal space, like really, really being present to what wants
Mhm.
to become next.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
cannot do that running at the pace that we used to run at. It just
Yeah, that's
won't
true.
serve.
Yep. Yep. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I have like 5 different follow-up questions.
Okay.
Um, First, though, just to pause, and it's so interesting because we're talking and we're assuming a lot of common kind of understanding. When we say like this moment, a
Mm,
lot of the listeners know exactly what we're talking about.
true.
And then there are people that that might come to this podcast and they don't really see what we're talking about. They don't really see what this administration is doing that is so destructive to people and organizations and cultures. And they're feeling more like this is like a normal sort of politics moment, that we're not necessarily liminal, that elections are like that. We have Republican presidents and then we have Democratic presidents, and then it goes back and then it goes back, and we do things one way and then we do things the other way, and the pendulum swings, and they're not quite seeing what's different about this, right? So
Yeah.
how do you reach those people? What do you say to those people?
Yeah, it's reminding me of like my family and others. It's like, what's
Uh-huh.
the big problem? Or, oh, I'm an optimist, it'll all work out, or
Mhm.
trust in the system, or whatever.
Mhm.
But once you see what we study as a field of
Yeah.
practitioners, right, is systems, right? And gosh, how would I describe it to folks that think this is kind of status quo hunky dory?
Mhm.
Oh boy. That's a really great question because it's a pendulum swinging, right? So, and I have moments where I can find comfort in that too. If change is the only constant, it's gonna it every I can tell you, Michael, you probably hear this too, like, oh, it'll bounce back, oh, it'll be
Mhm.
fine. Like I'm
Oh,
sitting there
yeah.
like processing my grief and fear, and they're like, it's gonna, don't worry,
Mhm.
you'll be busy again, and everybody will have like enough work to be doing, et cetera.
Mhm.
So I would love to believe that. It just, though, feels like the structures that we counted on, and I'm not just talking about workplace, but employers for sure. My understanding of the relationship between employers and employees that
Yeah.
all of my work was kind of predicated on
Mhm.
to me has cracked
Mhm.
into a million pieces. And everything I learned and was taught in terms of organizational change I'm sitting here now having seen decisions being made by people with power that completely disregard the human.
Right.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
that terrifies me. I have to say,
Mhm.
I haven't felt terror
Mhm.
professionally. I mean,
Mhm.
I have felt afraid for safety, yes.
Mhm.
But this goes beyond, I think, to see that those who have the power and the wealth at the moment uh, may continue to hold that and may continue to disregard the humans. And our work has always been about the humans need
Yeah.
things. We need
Yeah.
things. We need to be able to eat. We need to be able to be paid. We need to have purpose.
Mhm.
Uh, we need to not be competing with a technology that's been built, with our intelligence. We need to have community
Mhm.
to function and be happy.
Yeah.
So I think that the systems are showing us that there's a lack of care fundamentally, a
Mhm.
lack of caring whatever happens. The bottom line is going to be and power and the accrual of more wealth by a few will be the priority, not only of companies, but countries and powerful people all over the world. So all of
Yeah.
this all of this in light of an alien technology an alien intelligence that we don't understand, and very soon we won't be able to control. So
Mhm.
um I it makes what I was working towards, I think the project of inclusion in organizations has kind of like what does that even mean?
Yeah.
What does this even mean when now I may have non-human colleagues and I may be overseeing or supervising that? Like it's
Mhm.
just hard to get your bearings. on it. And again, I don't know if describing it that way to people that think this is status quo would even, I'm not sure. I might give them a
It
podcast to listen to and say, hey, just
I
educate
know.
yourself about what's actually going on here. But it's
It
interesting. It's economics, it's financial, it's
Mhm.
political. It's kind of a
Yeah,
whole. I think the scope and the holisticness of it,
yeah,
and realizing that everyone at the top seems to be coordinating with each other and seems
yeah,
to share a value set that does not have on its list
yeah,
the care and feeding. If that is true, then we have to be having a whole different conversation. I mean,
yeah.
even DEI, what we've done for so many years. I mean, we have to, and this is my point about the liminal space, like to stop and be present and say, wait a second, what does this world need from me now?
Mm,
It is urgent that each of us go through that exercise, and it sucks, and I hate
yeah.
it, and it's uncomfortable, and we don't know who we are going to become to serve that
Mhm.
next moment. But it is really critical that each of us do this. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of us are in it, right?
For sure. And I think, yeah, and I think systems thinking in general can be hard for folks to really
Mhm.
grasp. So, like,
So true.
even before this moment, people would come up to me and say, "Well, hasn't the pendulum swung too far the other way
Oh yeah,
now?"
that.
And it's like, well, what are we looking at? You know, if we're looking at, say, disparities in wealth or health or promotion rates or retention, like if we're looking at any of those markers that we can measure, the pendulum hasn't even begun to really swing in the right way. Like we have a lot of work to do to get that pendulum moving. If we're talking about the way we talk about pronouns, maybe that feels scary. But like, what about the systems and the outcomes that we're looking at? That's a different thing.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing you mentioned, which is so interesting, is the way it's so hard to talk about. Whether that's because it kind of shatters our sense of normalcy and what we're used to, or
Mm,
because just saying anything feels political and we've been trained to not talk about political things in workplaces. Or, I mean, I did a talk at a SHRM conference the day after the election,
mm,
in 2024. And that morning, I sort of got up, pulled myself together, and scrapped the whole thing and rewrote the entire thing. And 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 the way that people felt, like, that sense of just thank you for being honest and
mhm,
open. Everyone else here at this conference is pretending like this is business as usual.
mm,
Um, and that just naming and the clarity, like we get, and I've had episodes about the manipulation of just truth of like DEI itself, the term, like how
mm.
there's so much misinformation that's being spread about it. We don't have to buy into that. There's the reality of what these terms mean, and we can be really clear about that, and what work was happening and what work wasn't happening, or what work occasionally happened, but what
Usually.
most of it really is.
True.
We the just clear, honest talk is something that people, I think you're right, are really craving.
Yeah, yeah. It's a failure of language. I mean, it's like I don't know. I think what we're coming up against is a very big shift in humanity. Um,
Mm,
it
mm,
is.
mm,
It's an
mm.
understanding of how our world works and why it works and who makes it work and who matters. And it's
Yeah.
deep stuff. It's deep.
I know, I know. I mean, I think of the hallway thing. It resonated with me, like it resonated with lots of folks that
Yeah.
read it in your book, and then it got me thinking, like, are we on our way to something new? Or are we in some kind of perpetual hallway now because of the shape of change and the rate of change? And then I thought, well, if we are getting to something new soon, it's probably something really bad. Like, and if we're gonna get to somewhere good, that's gonna be a long, complicated hallway.
That
Like,
is so true. Better get used to grappling
yeah.
in the dark and not having a map. And I do. You bring up a question that I have asked myself and wondered about, like the linearity. of the way we've built our careers and career progression and I don't know, just like 1 + 1 equals 2.
Right, right.
You know, I do this and I get this reaction, or you know, I think we may be in this super ambiguous, incomprehensible place, and this is why I love the BANI model. I don't know if I mentioned in the book. I think I do. It's
Yeah,
brittle,
yeah, you do, you do.
yeah, brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. BANI,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
a futurist friend of mine uses that model
yeah,
as a way to kind of say to leaders, like, this is the new quote unquote normal, abnormal, unnormal, that you're functioning in, that you need to be successful in. And
yeah.
then you need to help bring people along in their understanding of and acknowledgement of an ability to cope with
Mhm.
the not knowing, the ambiguity, the nonlinearity of it. What does that mean then for like leadership development and
Right.
what, you know, what, how do we, how do, I don't want to say upskill, but it is an evolution for humans, I think, who like predictability, who like patterns, who like,
Mhm,
right, to be able to follow something that's existed, a path
mhm. Yep.
that exists, and not bushwhack your way through and, you know, fight for which direction am I going every single moment of every day when so much new is coming at me that I can't
Mhm,
metabolize it.
mhm,
So part
mhm.
of me worries that we are kind of wired. I don't know if we're wired for change or we're wired
Yeah,
for more of a predictability world, and that world
right.
isn't. And so, what is it going to cause in us? You know, from mental health to mass confusion to loss of purpose, and you know, orienting to something that gave us meaning and kind of defined us. I mean, our
Yeah.
entire generation, I don't know if you're Gen X, but
Mhm.
right, we've followed a script that came before and has been a part of our workplace basically since like the beginning of the century.
Mhm.
You know, it's been this kind of model.
Yeah.
And that in itself may be changing completely in the way the organizations look, and what an org chart, does it exist anymore, and is it flat,
Mhm,
and is it
mhm.
in with human and non-human team members, and how does work get done? And I mean, just the magnitude of what could happen next
Yeah.
makes me just wish for people that, and this is what the book tries to help people with, is that we learn to thrive in the churn of that. Like,
Mhm,
that's what I'm trying to do every day, and
mhm,
get kind of
mhm,
stay grounded and anchored and
mhm.
and connected to community, yes, and continuing to like make sure I'm connected, because we're not going to do this alone. That's the other super important thing that I think more and more it's going to be super critical, like you were talking about earlier, to
Yeah,
be sharing these moments of truth, of wisdom, of collaboration, of comparing, like, what about this? What about for
yeah.
you? This is for me. You know, in a way, it's the oldest system of communication that's ever existed. And it
Mhm,
is reminding ourselves we're human, we're wise, we have wisdom that can't be replicated yet.
mhm, mhm.
And that we can differentiate ourselves and continue to
Mhm.
kind of evolve the role we play in this world.
Yeah.
But this requires like a big change, I think, of an operating system of I don't know, everything about how we work and what we do and what our value is, and I mean, it's
Yeah,
a big change. I want us to make
yeah.
it. I want us to make it, but I think we're gonna need a lot of
Yeah.
light showers along the way to say, look
Oh
over
my
here,
gosh.
like,
I
stay calm,
yeah,
stay,
yeah.
stay
Well,
here.
and we do get operating systems, right? I mean, I'm a cultural anthropologist, so I
Yeah.
look at how young people from the earliest of ages, even like 0 to 3 years old, how their brains are constructing their knowledge about the world at these astonishing rates, right? 1 to 2 million synaptic connections per second are getting built by these brains. And a lot of that is just what things are and how they work and what categories exist and, what groups are there in the world and how do people interact, what's normal. And so changing that operating system that gets built in from such a young age, it's complicated. It's really
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah. And do you
Um,
believe that that plasticity continues to exist in us through any age? I would imagine you
there
do.
Yeah, there's supposedly with these windows of plasticity, especially 0 to 3, and then some in teenage years, where you have these windows of plasticity.
Hmm,
But a lot of time, but at other ages, our brains do not grow at those same rates.
I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah,
My
I
goodness.
love. I mean, I'm fascinated by that stuff. I did a
Mm,
whole like study in cognitive psychology as well because I just
mm,
think it's fascinating, and certainly you have to understand how the mind works to really understand how culture works because they're related, right?
mm.
Um, but oh gosh, what was else was I going to
Oh,
ask you?
sorry.
Oh no, what there? I wonder too if you've encountered people, and this I find this so interesting too, like how you cope or how you handle or how you think of this moment clearly depends on who you are and how you're being affected by it, right? If you've got, a finance job as a mutual fund manager, yeah, maybe you've got to figure out how tariffs are impacting things, or but maybe your day-to-day life isn't being impacted that much. If you're one of the 600,000 black women who've been pushed out of the workforce in the, that's a very different story. Like if you're someone like you're talking about who works in this field, if you're someone who is Hispanic or Latino, if you're someone who is transgender, like people are being impacted in different ways. How has that come up as you thought about what you wrote or heard from people as you go around talking about the book?
Yeah, you raise such a good point, which I feel like that's a tenet of all of our teaching, for all these years was differential impact,
Hmm.
which is the very definition of privilege.
Yeah.
You know, uh, and it is a privilege to, when you think of the liminal space and the pause, some of us are being paused forcibly. Not a lot
Hmm.
of us, some of us, maybe you have a choice because you have financial resources that allow you to be more resourced as you reinvent, as you reimagine who you are in the world. Um, so, and then, but I think it reminds me of Maslow hierarchy again, like the food, shelter, water baseline of our human needs before we can imagine and reimagine, and
Hmm.
maybe even who knows, maybe some of us will come through this with a new sense of purpose. I don't want to assume either that this is not a birth of the real self,
Hmm.
or the self that you have been holding off on being
Yeah.
too. I mean, these
Yeah.
big moments of change can really deliver incredible change in our lives, incredible truth,
Hmm.
moments of truth,
Hmm.
voices for truth and courage. And, when you feel like your purpose can be ignited in this moment.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I think, and if you are, yeah, I mean, it's just such a complex question because you are riding
Hmm.
through this with different, like I say, resources, community connection,
Right.
more or less like isolation or connection to people and support in that respect. So there's financial resources, there's people resources. And I think, it's a hard, I think of young people and I think of them coming into this workforce, supposedly, if they can get
Hmm.
employed.
Hmm.
And I don't even know, I worry, I compare it to what my younger years were like and the opportunities that I had. I think about their optimism or lack thereof. I think about how much of my realism, I guess, to even share with my nieces and nephews. And I've been told, we're just trying to like be young people right now. Like, we don't want to know, like, don't bring all that heavy stuff. Like, let me be this age, let me be the kid, which is such an
Hmm.
interesting thing too that makes me reflect on, intergenerational conversations right now that are
Oh
real,
yeah.
that need to be real,
Hmm.
and yet are in short supply. So anyway,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, Michael. It's such a beautiful question. I would wonder how you would answer it. I think maybe it's not an answer. It's just like acknowledgement that we are
Acknowledging.
differently, and then seek to
Hmm.
support differently according to
Yeah.
the struggle, which has always been
Yeah.
what our work is about.
Yeah, exactly. Acknowledging all that it's impacting people differently, like you say. Acknowledging that we even our coping isn't linear, right? Like
Oh,
some
so
days I'm all fight. Some days I'm
true.
all like
All like, "Ugh."
keep your calm. Some days I'm all resistance. Some days I'm all hopeless. Some
Me
days I'm
too.
all
Mm,
looking at the stars and thinking whatever, right? Like it's
too.
complicated stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
and I would say that there's tremendous opportunity in times of crisis,
yeah.
and this systemic wide crisis that we're in. Polycrisis is actually what a lot of people call it. It's not just one
Yeah.
crisis. It's a
Right.
crisis of multiple belief systems, multiple systems that you can, I mean, democracy, like whoever would have thought that we may not have
Yeah.
elections? Like even a year or two ago, I wouldn't have thought the like
Yeah.
yes, voter suppression, yeah, but and it's just so anyway, it's so holistic that touches each part of our lives, and
Yeah.
I think that can be very dangerous for humans because, like, what do we ground into?
Yeah.
Um, and but the return to what did we ground into before we had these systems in the first place that came along, honestly, just to monetize us.
Mm,
So
mm,
the
mm, mm.
opportunity of
Yeah.
returning to something that's older and
Yeah.
deeper in us as humans and truer that we control, that isn't dictated by those who do not have our same interests at heart.
Mm.
I mean, that question feels very juicy to me. Um,
Yeah.
returning,
Absolutely.
right? Because we know how to do that, but we've forgotten. And we've forgotten because
Yeah.
we began to rely for meaning and identity on systems that didn't have the same value systems as we do. Like we might have
Mhm.
thought that they did. And honestly, it got me through 25 years of a career. I honestly never
Mhm.
would have embarked on this endeavor if I hadn't, I don't know, I would have embarked on it maybe in a different way. But the
Yeah.
way I did was I thought if I can influence one person that influences thousands of people, I'm going to try to do that. It's the
Mhm.
shortest direction to the somebody who holds people's livelihoods in their hands. They're
Mhm.
thriving in their hands. They're, we work more hours of our lives, sometimes
Yeah.
that we live, and a lot happens there. A lot of like
Mhm.
growth and stimulation and orientation and community. Yes, friendships.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
that's what drove you towards working with leaders in the first place? Was
yeah. I
that
mean, yeah, I did
great?
because I was
Yeah.
that little LGBTQ coming out person looking at the
Mhm.
workplace, being like
Yep.
simultaneously kind of disgusted with
Mhm.
where I was like an activist in my 20s and I never thought I would ever tangle with corporate. But then I think I got my master's in OD, organizational change, and I studied systems, and somehow I got very interested in, I think, the courage that it takes to lead and the
Mhm.
profile of a leader, and
Yeah.
what does it mean to put yourself out on a limb every day as leaders do? And then
Yeah.
what do ethics have to do with that? What does emotional
Mhm.
intelligence, what does accountability look like? How do
Mhm.
you shift these complex systems with humans in them
Yeah.
that are so unfortunately elemental to our ability to pay our bills, get health insurance? I mean, there's a very interesting podcast my friend did that traces the moment back to the moment decades ago when it
Mhm.
was decided in America that employers would be responsible for
Mm.
healthcare and that
Mm.
our healthcare would only come from
Mm.
employers and only come from being employed.
Mm.
And there were a series of sort of accidental decisions that were made because of totally other factors
Mm.
that ended us up here.
Yeah.
Like,
It's,
anyways, so it's just very it fascinated me, I think, and yeah, and that was kind of what drew me. And I, as an LGBTQ person, I that was closeted, I felt powerful as a demographic. I
mhm.
felt proud of my demographic. I felt I wanted to advocate for us. I wanted
Yeah.
us to be at the table. I wanted us to be hired. I wanted us to be
Yeah.
respected. I wanted us to be acknowledged for
Mhm.
how
Mhm.
talented we are. I wanted us to be acknowledged as, yes, the consumers that we are.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
the very kind of eyes wide open consumers that we are, right?
Yeah.
We are not afraid to hold institutions accountable. I mean, the first time I saw that corporate equality index, which for some of you that are listening to this may not know, it's the index that the LGBTQ plus community uses to hold companies accountable and gives
Mhm.
them their marching orders for policies, protections, language, et cetera. It's been around probably what, Michael? 30 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but it's just an incredible tool. And I think when I
Mhm.
saw that, it's like, oh, so we can influence these big, powerful institutions to treat us better.
Mm.
And with my newly minted master's, I was very
Mhm.
excited to, get into that. Yeah, so that was how I started. And
Uh-huh.
oh,
Well, and
like
how I mean, that's a great segue because in the book you also talk about how work has become, in so many instances, so not human, so cruel, so ignoring of people's humanity. Like, how do you what would you tell if you had a leader here that you were working with, right, on this podcast with us? How do you reach them to help them both understand how to navigate this, this world, this VUCA, BANI world, whatever you want to call it, and do it with some humanity as well?
yeah. I know. I wish I could reach people quickly and at scale
Hmm.
to say what got you here won't get you there, to quote the book with
Hmm.
that title. Um, and to say, and you're probably noticing that not a lot of things that you used to do are working anymore.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
naming it, saying like,
Hmm.
it doesn't work anymore. I don't know how to build trust when I am having to talk to my people about this, and don't know how to communicate this, and I don't know how to open this conversation, and I don't know how vulnerable and honest to be as a human versus a leader, because we are both in this body. We're
Hmm.
leading, but we're also human, you
Yeah.
know. And leaders are in the pinch because they're getting leaned on by the, things above them to say, make this happen, do this. I don't care how it happens.
Yeah.
The leader has to be the one that determines how it happens ethically
Hmm.
as much as you can. And yes,
Yeah.
everything is set against you. Yes,
Hmm.
it's true.
Hmm.
It is
Woo.
true. Leadership is hard and it's being tested right now in, I think, ways that I thought being an inclusive leader was a test for people. And I remember
Mhm.
it seems almost quaint that I was, I was like, hey, be a more inclusive leader. Here's the path,
Mhm.
and I've written these books on it and whatever. And now if it were that, my goodness, because I think that's so well resourced and
Yeah.
understood and written about, and there's so much you cannot say that you're
Yeah.
not surrounded with helpful resources on what that means. What do we mean? What does it look
Right.
like in practice? Like whatever. Don't even tell me you don't know.
Yeah.
But this moment, though, the playbook, I mean, literally, like everything.
Yeah.
And so your question is important, which is, so how do I be in this? And
Mhm.
how can I put my head on the pillow and feel I have acted ethically, and I have prioritized the humans that work with me and for me and in the organization, which fundamentally the shape of it may be completely changing. But what did I do? I mean, I it's simultaneously protecting. It's protecting.
Mhm.
It's elevating humanity and what makes humans brilliant and special. It
Mhm.
is communicating, encouraging people to embrace something that makes them feel all kinds of things: threatened, fearful, um, distracted, certainly not as productive. So calming the nervous system of the human. You're never going to get anything from the humans in your organization if we're all just like jacked up all the time based on
Yeah.
what we're trying to digest right now. So
Mhm.
is a leader a calming presence? Is it an orienting presence? Is it a grounding factor? Is it someone who reminds us of who we are? Is it someone who reminds us of what we do that is irreplaceable in
Mhm.
any equation, in any system, at least so far? And
Right.
and is it someone who says we cannot predict the future? I don't know.
Mhm.
And I don't this is what I do believe in. This is what I do think we are about. This is what we are endeavoring to accomplish. Here are the shared vision. And here's why you're important. Here's why you matter. Here's
Yeah.
why we need not just all the ways you used to perform, and the ways that you will perform may be different. And I'm
Mhm.
here and we're here to move through this change together.
Mhm.
And I will be learning alongside you, that humility.
Yeah.
I think all of those things calm the
Mhm.
calm us so that we can actually even listen and move. Because
Yeah.
I think we're immobilized by all of this. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not, this is just, we're just humans. We're animals.
Mhm.
We're not the 24/7 machines. We can't disregard what people are going through. And the book starts with grief and loss and surrender, and those
Yeah.
are the first chapters. And leaders that can help people through the process into the hallway, and
Yeah.
then help people stay there and understand how to function there and really get the most out of every moment where there's always possibility and opportunity.
Mhm.
Leaders that can contextualize that and enable people to feel kind of comfortable being really present.
Yeah.
um, I'd like to hear that more. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone knows how to communicate in that way, as far as I can tell. And if they did, they're afraid to, because I think they're probably, I want to say the things I want to say, but I'm not allowed to, or I'm not allowed to lead in this moment in the way that I really want to.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
imagine that's what's going on.
Yeah. Are you seeing any examples of that being done well?
You
Give
know,
us some
uh,
hope, Jennifer.
Yeah, I mean, I love our friend Tristan Harris, who has a new movie out called AI Doc, How
Mm.
I Became an Apocalyptimist.
Okay.
I just love him. I think he's showing
Mm.
great leadership right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
I like
Okay.
the way
Good.
yeah, I like, but he's not a corporate leader, and I don't know. I'm not as inside organizations for obvious reasons
Mhm.
than I used to
Mhm.
be. So I'm not
Yeah.
really witnessing, Michael, but I don't know about you. Who do you think is kind of striking a balance and beginning to
Yeah.
craft a new script, new
Gosh.
going out?
I think it is rare, like you say. I mean, certainly in low profile ways, working with organizations, I see leaders that are able to do that, whether that's,
Mm,
executive leaders or just people who manage people, and they can do that for their teams. Like I see small examples of that. Um,
yeah.
Occasionally big examples. What comes to mind is something like what the CEO of Marriott said when he was being asked about inclusion or something. He's just like, "What are you talking about? Like our people make us
That's
what we are. We're going to take care of our people. We have
that's right.
always done
That's right.
that. Like
That's right.
what's the question here?"
What
Um,
are we talking
right?
about? Costco too. Costco, like
Yeah,
what a great
exactly.
story that is too. So yeah.
Exactly, but just staying true, and it's like having your hand on a rudder in a boat where storms are trying to throw you all around, but you're just steady. And at least with the values and with the humanity part of it. Um,
Yeah,
so I
trust.
sometimes see that, but it's hard to figure out. I mean, you know this. It takes a lot of work with leaders sometimes. I mean, they can be for whatever reason, maybe they've had a certain leadership style forever and that's what's gotten them to where they are, or maybe it's a certain privilege which creates a lack of understanding. Um, I remember working with one CEO who we were talking about exclusion, and he told the story about how, yeah, sure, in high school he was the starting quarterback on the football team and everybody loved him, and um, but then one day he went to a teammate's house, and that teammate in that house, they were speaking Spanish and he didn't understand it, so he understands what it's like to feel exclusion. And okay, bless your heart. That's a good starting place to like
Meet
grasp
people
on.
where they're at, Michael.
Yeah, grasp on to something where you can
Oh,
relate.
we're
But
kind
then
of
there's a
getting
lot of work to be
uh,
done to really help people understand how that's not what we're talking about when we talk about people facing consistent exclusion or inequities, right?
that's
Um, and
right.
so it takes work and practice and honestly support too in organizations. A lot of times leaders don't get the support. It's being put on them to just kind of magically do it without systems that support and train and enable them to do what they sometimes know they should be doing. right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, there's so many reasons for it. You've outlined a bunch of them, and that was why
yeah.
neuroplasticity, I was thinking about our question earlier.
Yeah.
This moment requires such a reset, and I wonder and I worry about, the age of many leaders who are in super important positions and influencing
Mhm.
what happens to and
Yeah.
how so many people feel in the
Yeah.
process. You don't have to love the outcome,
Yeah.
but what a wonderful goal to, shepherd people through a change. Like,
Mhm.
but shepherding, we've always kind of known, I think, what the change would result in.
Yeah.
So you're now shepherding people through a wilderness and you don't know where the edge is. You don't know that
Yeah.
there will be a resolution. Like you said, is
Right.
this to be a steady state of
Yeah.
chaos and incomprehensibility? How do you walk with people in
Yeah.
that space when you are walking it yourself
Right.
too?
Right.
Nothing
And you
is safe.
don't
Nothing.
Yeah, and you don't know, like you're saying. I mean, a lot of times what feels like great change is a hallway and things return largely to the way they were. I mean, I'm
Mm,
thinking about COVID, where in the middle of COVID, it felt like, oh, this is going to dramatically redefine the way we work as societies, and we're all going to shop
mm,
local and support local businesses and like take care of our communities, and this is going to change everything, right? And then yeah, it
mm.
changed remote work, but, like, it didn't change the fabric of our society, right?
Wow.
Um, so you just
Unexpected.
don't know
Yeah, you
looking
just don't,
back.
and we don't know about this moment either, right? And it's a
Mhm.
hopeful thing to say and remind ourselves too. We don't know. Like your
Yeah.
examples, well taken, because
Mhm.
what we thought would happen, but something else happened that we
Yeah.
couldn't have anticipated. I think we spend a lot of time, and I'm so guilty of this, like wanting to know the answer, right? And kind of ruminating
Yeah.
constantly, versus I think being very present to like quiet the noise and really listen inwardly to who do
Mhm.
I need to be, want to be now, and is that a different way of showing up, and even the fundamentally what I do for a living. And I could decide. Some people who are affected by, maybe they made a lot of money and maybe they change and take a different kind of job now,
Mhm.
because we realize our lives are finite and
Yeah.
our time, the clock is ticking and there's nothing promised, and
Yeah.
we haven't gotten to the work that's meaningful to us in our lives.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, I'm, coaching a lot of people who are spinning out of these a paycheck every 2 weeks scenarios. And
Yep.
having been an entrepreneur for so long,
Yep.
that is a future for a lot of us. And
Mhm.
so I'm grateful, and I'm grateful that they may go forth and kind of change the world now that they have like the bandwidth and the focus and a charter that feels juicy
Yeah.
to them, and they get to show up in the world in a very different way, and be actually maybe for the first time like really proud
Mm.
of like the legacy that they may leave. That's
Yeah.
what a beautiful thing, but the disruption is
Yeah.
the catalyst.
Yeah.
And I think it's true for me too. I'm going in many different directions now, and I'm sort of freed from some kind
Mhm.
of tape.
Mhm. Mhm.
As the ship is dissolved,
Yeah.
we are freed from certain things. And I think
Yeah.
that's super important too to remember. We are being freed from. What are you being
Mm.
freed from in this moment that feels so hard,
Yeah.
that now gives you space, permission, maybe some time to dream about it again. We stop
Yeah.
dreaming when we get older too. We
Oh,
stop, our imagination starts to, I mean, imagine us as
yeah.
younger people. We thought
Mm.
everything was possible.
Yeah.
So we need
Yeah.
to
So true.
channel back into that.
So true. Are you
Yeah.
able to share some of the directions you're going in?
Well, uh,
Mhm.
I love this change stuff, honestly. I still am kind of feeling pulled back to the org. Um, but it's about the bigger stuff we've been talking about,
Mhm.
the changes in the workforce,
Yeah.
workplace. Um, what is just trying to kind of, if we can even imagine and kind of put our hands on the elephant, like one hand at a time, like what
Yeah.
is it going to look like, or what could it look like? And then what
Mhm.
capabilities, how do we shepherd our people
Yeah.
through this change, and towards what, and can we influence the shape of that?
Mhm.
And how can we retain our seat at the table as people who run talent, for example, and think about culture and are accountable, at least so far, for humans in the
Mhm.
organization, what does that even look like? I mean,
Yeah.
I find it it's super like urgent and relevant and allows me to bring so many different pieces of my own knowledge and curiosity and what I used to do before
Mhm.
DEI. And like, I mean, it's just this moment calls on all of us,
Yeah.
pieces of us that I think maybe we haven't used and haven't brought in to the picture, maybe
Mhm.
in a long time. I mean, I don't know about you, but if you've ever felt, wow, I've been really focused on this thing for a long time, and
Yeah.
there's a lot more that's unfolding, and there's more in me. There's
Mhm.
more that can be
Yeah,
pulled forward. So yeah, I think the change.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
If we've been touching on this, like I sometimes refer to it as the field formerly known as DEI, like the
Oh,
artist formerly known as Prince.
my God,
Um,
yes.
but if and you talk about how maybe some of the way that was operating was good to reevaluate or shed. If you could envision where you would love to see that work move to, or what it could look like what do you envision with that?
It was always about responsibility to humans.
Mhm.
It was always about valuing human contribution,
Yeah.
all human contribution. So really the field maybe not existing in the same way, but the essence of the work, the
Hmm.
inquiry of it, the juice in it to me was like, can I thrive? Is it important that people thrive? Is it important that people reach their full potential and that they're not prevented from doing that?
Yeah.
Is it important that people evolve? Yes.
Mhm.
Is it uncomfortable to evolve? Yes.
Mhm. Yep.
What are the elements of evolution? Is there such a thing as accelerating that? I don't know. Decelerating? Accelerating? I mean, it's almost
Yeah.
like go slow to go fast. I mean, in the liminal
Mhm.
space, we are slowed.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yet, like, it allows us to go back, way back into what we were talking about earlier, like
Yeah.
what we know deeply in our bones, like that was
Yeah.
not the built system of our world, right?
Yeah.
Not capitalism, not companies trying to make a profit, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
We built ERGs as like little ports in the storm to be safe.
Mhm.
And this,
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
about what that says about the
Right.
system. The system is
Right.
toxic, and you're going to need this group to survive.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then over time, the groups, became business drivers, or we tried to
Yeah.
get them there. But it was all defined, though, not
Mhm.
by the system. It's really
Yeah.
interesting. Like when you get some distance from things, I think you can really see how it was built and why it was built. And you can
Yeah.
have so much grace for us because we were just trying to survive,
Mhm. Mhm.
trying to thrive. I
Yep.
just want to thrive. I just don't want all these obstacles in my way. I don't want biases in my way. I don't
Right.
want to be underestimated. I don't want to not be at the
Mhm.
table. Like all of
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
was so fair and so right to want.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh,
So
yeah.
we still
And
want, we deserve it.
yeah, and so not controversial.
No, no, nothing I just said is
No.
illegal.
I
So
know. Well, and
so I
that's the thing
think
too, is when you see the research about what Americans actually want, it's largely that, you
yeah,
know? Like
yeah.
it gets politicized and manipulated, but when you strip out the charged words, we have a lot of agreement on what people would actually want.
We really do. Yeah, and I think, did we leave some people behind as we kind of sprinted forwards towards progress and in the movement that you and I share?
Mm.
Maybe. Maybe. I always worried about that. I was
Mm.
aware that we were leaving behind people all
Who
along.
who do you think about when you think about people
Oh
that were left
gosh.
behind?
Well, I think in the LGBTQ plus community, we left trans people behind
Mm, mm,
in order to get legislation passed, you know?
mm,
I mean,
mm,
so we left parts of our community behind, and I
mm.
don't mean
Interesting. Yeah,
use your
yeah.
community, but socioeconomically, communities have been left behind for like
Oh, yeah.
capitalism just discards one after the other after the other. So, I mean, how far do we want to go back? Like,
Yeah.
but I guess I think we were leaving behind folks who had been experiencing exclusion in our economic system and the destruction of their livelihood,
Mhm.
and the fallout from that in parts of the country and in certain, states and certain
Oh, yeah.
industries, whole industry.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think
Yeah.
we are taking our place in a way. Another comforting thought, weirdly, is each of us will have our turn,
Mhm.
and we will have our in this system will chew us
Mhm.
up. It just chews us up and spits us out at different points.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
That's the comforting thought.
yeah, but
Mm.
it's only comforting. I mean, it's not the right word. It's orienting for me
Mhm.
because it's like, okay, it's my turn.
Mhm.
And you know what? What a blessing to have loved what I did for so long.
Mhm.
What a
Mhm.
blessing
Mhm.
and a beautiful thing that I don't think a lot of people get to feel
Mhm.
in their lifetime is
Yeah.
loving your work, like,
Yeah.
and loving the humans that you do it for, and
Yeah.
and just feeling a sense of community that
Yeah.
we felt and feel. Like you and I, like,
Mhm.
we don't talk that often, but we're like, I mean,
You're
it's
in it.
like,
Yeah.
I know you're there and I'm here, and I
Yeah.
can just, it's a node with like a million spider web of like
Mhm.
caring people and loving
Yeah.
people. And that is so comforting to me. But we have to extend that web, and we always needed to, because there were people
Mhm.
who weren't ready to digest the learning that we were giving. And it was a bit too advanced, I think, and too whatever, threatening,
Mhm.
unfamiliar,
Mhm.
enough time
Mhm.
to really metabolize. What do you mean
Yeah.
I'm a racist if I'm not an anti-racist? Like,
Yeah.
hold up. Like,
Yep.
like
Yep.
let's just like, let's just pause on that and like understand,
Yeah.
how is that delivered? How is it received? How is it being
Mhm.
accepted? How can we help people come to the
Mhm.
understanding that we want them to come to? So I think the losing of people also happened
Mhm.
in that way.
Yep.
And and it was all, I would never blame anyone, because the pent up anger and passion for this is so long overdue and so intense, and it
Mhm.
burns so hot.
Mhm. For
So many of
sure.
us. Yeah. So it's more, I think every movement has to go back and say, what were our choices, and who came along and who didn't, and
Mhm.
what
Mhm.
was the impact of that, and what could we have
Mhm.
done differently, and would
Yeah.
we have done something differently?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I think we'll have the opportunity to do that because
Yeah.
we've got, people are always going to be complicated and we're, workplaces are going to have to figure
It's
that out. And we're going to have biases and we're going to have
yes.
inequities. And
If we're
so,
human, we're biased, as so
mm,
many of your guests, you've had all the experts
yeah,
in this on.
for
Yeah.
sure. So
We are.
I think we'll have the opportunity to do that maybe in a different way, right?
Yeah.
Maybe in a way that's more focused on systems and outcomes um and doing the work kind of quietly but firmly rather than like
Mm.
loudly and performatively as sometimes it happened.
I love that. And that's very much in our sphere of control, what you're saying,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
my community. And the
Yeah.
local piece is not an accident, as you bring this up. I do think, as much as we talk about systems, and where the change will happen is the local.
Yeah.
And I live in a small town now versus Manhattan, and it was a big change a couple of years ago.
Mm.
And I am, oh my goodness, is it nourishing in a way that I had
Mm.
no idea
Yeah.
I needed. And again, it's way back to our human selves and our communities, how they looked before they needed to generate things,
Mhm.
or we needed to move to a city to have the job to whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
So the closer we can get, even if we, listening to this, you're living in a city and everything, but just even naming this kind of human, what is the sort of human need for community? What does it look like? Do you have it
Yeah.
in your life? Do you have people who know you, who are checking in on you, who are keeping
Mhm.
on your life, who, make enable you to feel a sense of belonging? I think who helped us feel belonging in that workplace, that will change, because
Mhm.
if that workplace is transactional now, and
Yeah.
it all probably always was, the question is going to be like, where do I go for belonging? If it's
Mhm.
not in this structure. This
Mhm.
structure has problems, and this structure has shown us
Yeah.
We know we've seen a lot now, and it's
Yep.
like, I don't trust this structure anymore. Like,
Mhm.
but then the question is, who do I trust to be in community with?
Mhm. Yeah.
And the LGBTQ community, no, we've felt that. It hasn't been perfect, but we
Mhm.
felt that, and that's been such a tremendous gift in life.
Oh,
Um,
that's great. Yeah. Oh gosh, so many interesting
oh,
things, Jennifer. I
deep
feel like we could go
conversations.
on for hours and hours.
Oh,
But I feel like we're gonna have to wrap this up
yes,
so
we
people
will.
can get back to their their days. This has been amazing. Where should they go to read more about you and your work and your books? Where should they go?
Yeah, so I'm mainly these days under Jennifer Brown Speaks. So if you look that up on Substack, I'm there. I'm
Perfect.
writing, we're doing Substack Lives. I'm leading a program at Omega, if you don't mind my mentioning this, in
No,
October.
please.
Yeah, it's an open enrollment program at Omega, which is in Rhinebeck, New York. Please investigate it. Come join us for a weekend. A lot of this kind of conversation is going to be happening. It's
That's
called
great.
Reclaiming Wisdom.
Okay.
Yeah, so my Substack, LinkedIn, obviously, Instagram.
Hmm.
It's called The Shape of Change. You mentioned it. And
Yep.
if you're listening to this and you don't know about my other work, I'm finding interestingly that How to Be an Inclusive Leader, the second edition, the book before The Shape of Change, these two are like really nice. They fit nicely together. And there's still
Hmm.
some organizations, Michael, that are probably listening to this that you probably support that still are doing the work
Yeah.
of inclusive leadership.
Yeah.
So you can have that. The book before The Shape of Change will be a wonderful resource for anyone that's listening to this. And then The Will to Change was my podcast that I had forever and ever. I'm on a bit
Yay.
of a hiatus from it, but last year's episodes, please go back, listen to them if you want more.
Yeah. It's so impressive that you've done so many episodes of that podcast, almost
Uh,
400 episodes.
oh,
Oh my gosh.
you want to
That's
kill me?
amazing. Ah, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I learned it evolved me. It changed me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, each human was just so impactful, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful for it.
That's lovely. So Jennifer, sometimes I like to give people a little sort of homework assignment if they feel like, I don't know, watching something or reading something or listening to something or trying something or journaling about something. In addition to reading your books, which I recommend folks do, what else might you suggest they could do to kind of reflect and deepen what you've been talking about?
Mm, maybe as much time as you spend with technology, either using it, learning about it, doing your AI homework or whatever. What if we were to spend an equal amount of time with our teachers in nature? Like, what
Mm,
if? Like, I think we've got to get pretty radical these days. The encroachment is so intense, and
yeah.
I've in the book there's tons of nature images and metaphors, and so much learning that's coming into me about
Mm,
cycles, about seasons, about change,
yeah.
lessons about change, and lessons for us in terms of patience and
Mhm.
present,
Yeah.
and taking the time that it needs, the time that nature takes to go through
Yeah.
transitions. Like, watch the transitions happening around you. Try to get into that and then remind yourself, okay, there are many timelines here. There's the
Mhm.
timeline of that capitalism wants me to be productive in,
Mm,
and there's a timeline of technology that can run as faster than I can.
mhm.
And then there's the timeline around me.
Mhm.
And there's the human timeline of change, that
Mhm.
how fast we can move in the system.
Yeah.
So just try to balance, just try to seek balance in that, and allow these inputs to come
Yeah.
to you, and really kind of take root in you.
Yeah. That's great advice. And that metaphor of encroaching Nate,
Ugh.
that as a parent, I especially feel that.
Oh,
A parent of especially my two teenagers. I mean,
oh
it feels
wow,
like if you are not sort of keeping the forest at bay, it'll take the technology will take them over.
yeah, you must feel like you're constantly like, not this, that. Hey,
Mm,
you are protecting for sure.
yeah, well, it almost forces you to overschedule because, okay, well,
Yeah.
If they're at soccer practice, they're not on a device. If they're, if they're playing the piano, they're not on a device. Like it
Gosh.
almost forces you to do that in a way that I wouldn't have thought that was important 15 years ago.
No, no, you're
Um,
being such a good parent for even knowing that this and
oh
trying
gosh,
to hold the line.
it's
Ah,
it's hard to feel like it, but thank you.
yeah, yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank
Thanks,
you so,
Michael.
so much for joining us. I know people will have gotten so much out of listening to you. So
So,
thank you. Thank you. And let's talk soon.
thanks, Michael.
All right. Bye, everyone.